afternoon. Welcome to Talking Business. I am Blessing AJ. Now today we'll be looking at the new policy of the CBN. I'm talking about the cash withdrawal policy of the CBN, how it impacts or will impact the economy when that policy comes into effect in January 2023. I've got with me an economist and statistician, Destiny Owobu. Thanks for coming on the show.
Good afternoon. Thanks.
Good afternoon to you too. All right, now, so a few days ago, the CBN sort of rattled Nigerians with its new policy on cash withdrawal. We do know that prior to the end of the year, when the UTAD is fully here, we have restrictions in terms of cash withdrawal. Yeah. But this is not something that is going to start in this UTAD. Is for next year, January 9th, to be precise. Now, the CBN has made it that withdrawal via the POS or ATM will not be more than 20,000 naira daily, and 100,000 naira for 1 week. And then for individuals who would withdraw over the counter, 100,000 naira. Corporate entities will be 500,000 naira. This is a cash economy. Yeah. We understand that the CBN is trying to push for cashless policy. But what are your thoughts on this, given our peculiarity?
Like I said, the CBN it's becoming the federal government itself. Normally, when we talk about the economy, we are looking at two major policy dimensions. We have the fiscal policy and the monetary policy. In the last couple of months, we'll be hearing more of CBN, CBN, CBN. It means the government is working very hard with one of its legs, and then we don't hear anything about the fiscal policy, which is the other side. So far, I think they are having a grip on the economy. But I just wish the fiscal sector also had that kind of grip, because most of the challenges Nigeria has is mostly in the fiscal sector. Low wages, lack of productivity, serious unemployment. These things are not things that are solved by monetary solutions. What we really need is a fiscal grip on the economy. But so far, you can't blame the CBN trying to handle its own house properly, especially when most people are familiar with the exchange rate, the interest rate, the inflation rate thing. So most of the problems we have in the fiscal sector are manifested in the monetary equivalent. So if you have problems with production, you're going to see it in form of prices. And then we think about the CBN. If you have problems with the import sector, you're going to see it in the exchange rate. Then we look at the CBN again. If you have problem with the with kidnapping, for instance, which is a security issue, then people begin to think about the CBN again, whereas that's just a simply failure of our security apparatus to simply check this kidnapping and how their payment system operates. But CBN happens to be a very strong part of government right now, and then they are doing those things that we expect government to do. So it's okay. All in all, it is going to be good for the economy, but then there's a problem. The problem here is that over half of the Nigerian populace are unbanked, so to speak. And most of, we have about 40 million businesses in this country, small businesses, and out of these, about 36 million of them do not operate on, what they call it, I mean, they are small scale, and then they do not operate on these transactions, kind of, you know.
E-transactions.
So, e-transactions. So we can, only about 56% of them have used a banking transaction in the first place. Only about half of these businesses have BVN accounts connected to the owner or anybody. So, if you check the evolution of the CBN policy for the last 10 years, there have been a focus of trying to drive away from a cash economy to a cashless economy. And in the last 5 years alone, from 2017 to date, online transactions rose from about 1.4 trillion to about 5.6 trillion. It means the government is really getting into that sector. So it's a good thing if you look at it in aggregate, but then people are looking at it. We have what called the trickle-down effect. If you do something on aggregate, it can be very good for the aggregate. But for the smaller businesses, the people we are talking about, most businesses depend on cash, heavily on cash. Will it not look as if we are penalizing them for being small? Because most of them are not really in the formal economy. And
so they cannot even access that 500,000 naira for corporate entities?
Yes, we are talking, yes. And secondly, one of the qualities of good money is that it should be convenient. Okay, now which one is more convenient? I remember when I was I was trying to build a facility and I needed to buy roofing sheets. I offered to transfer the money to the man. It was about 600,000 then. This man told me, no, I want cash. You know, most of these people prefer the cash method. They trust it more. So what we should be looking at is what's the switching cost? What will it cost people to adapt to the online, to the bank system? If the switching cost is very high compared to the convenience cost, because we are going to look at how convenient is it when you compare the banking system and using the cash method. If people do that mathematics and discover that the switching costs are high, then it may create what we call a black market for cash.
I was coming to that.
Yes, a black market for cash.
The
yes.
CBN just redesigned the Naira
yes.
because it said lots of cash were being hoarded.
Yes.
So coming up with a policy like this and announcing it almost like a month before you begin to implement the policy, does it not become counterproductive, resulting in the same situation the CBN was trying to correct, people hoarding cash ahead of next year?
It will not, because the cash they are going to hoard will be useless. We're talking about a new redesigned cash, for instance. So if you hoard the old cash as we speak, the one that you had before.
But they have until January 31
to do that. But the problem is this.
It does not become a legal tender anymore.
Yes, the purpose of redesigning is, one, to these criminals, first of all, and secondly, a lot of people who are holding cash. We want to be able to trace this cash flow. Now, those people who are criminals will not just rush to the bank because they know people are going to ask, where did you get the money from? You know, when you make some deposits in the banking system, once you make deposits of up to 5 to 10 million, the CBN is alerted of such a transaction. One of the purposes of redesigning is to force these people to come out from their hiding and bring their cash to the bank. Except they are going to open multiple accounts and then transfer all of them small. But that doesn't work because we have a BVN system that traces one person to all several accounts. The policy is to knock out a certain part of the economy, those people who benefit from the current cash system. So if in the short run, it will look as if there will be disequilibrium. Between now and January, a lot of people will be trying to dash to the bank. Some people will be trying to withdraw cash from the bank. Those people who depend heavily on cash, as I speak to you, will be running to the bank to get a lot of cash and keep it inside their house. While those people who believe that the money will be waste are trying to dash to the bank and put their money in the bank. So plus and minus, we expect a shake-up in the system. But one thing we should be more interested in is how will it affect prices of goods and services? You know, those are the big questions. This is just simply, we call it, we are simply engineering the system. What the consumer wants to know is this: how will it affect the price of goods and services? One. Two, how will it affect business? If my customers prefer to pay me in cash, especially if I do small cash business, and then I'm introducing they should do online and things. I told you convenience. Will they prefer to do business elsewhere because I don't accept the other form? If I want to withdraw money from a bank, moreover, like I told you, will you not penalize the poor people? Because they didn't say you cannot withdraw money. They only said that if you want to withdraw more than that, you need the authority from somebody.
Creating bottlenecks.
Yes, they are creating, but it's like...
Is that not a waste of time?
Yes, not really a waste of time if you look at the strategy of the CBN. Tactically, it will cause problems, but strategically, what they want to achieve is they want to make Nigeria a modern economy where we can track all payments. The CBN will really have effective monetary policy. If you look at it from the CBN's perspective, you cannot control an economy financially if you do not have control over the elements. So if half of the economy, half of society is unbanked, then the CBN's monetary policy will look powerless because it means half of the people are not captured in the system. So what they are trying to do is to deepen the system, financial deepening, to ensure that every person who controls, who is an economic agent, who controls money, has some relationship with the banking system. So we can track funds, we can regulate, we can even tax people who are untaxed. So there are implications for this. They want to tax people extra too, because we depend on direct taxes. But if you're able to find a way to link everybody to the banking system, governments can simply be doing small charges on our accounts. So look at it from the perspective of the bank. It's going to increase financial inclusion. But from the perspective of the people, what do I stand to gain? That's the question. Am I going to have cheaper transactions? Those are the questions from the end user. Am I going to have seamless transactions? If you're doing online transactions. Yes, will it affect the demand for my products? Will it make it easy for me to operate my business without being tracked? What are the tax implications? Will it take more money away from me or not? If you look at it from the perspective of Nigerians, the average Nigerian, especially when you know that half of the population are small business owners and they are just surviving, I don't see how it's going to translate to better economics for them, better economy for them, especially in the short run. Maybe in the next 5-10 years, like we always say, we need time for us to measure the impact of these things. But one thing we must state clearly is that in the last 5 years, there have been a major progress in the financial inclusion system of the central bank. People are becoming very comfortable using online transactions. The population of people we are afraid of, they are about 60 and above. They are the old generation of people born in the 90s. I mean, the Gen Z. They're already used to using financial transactions. The CBN did never really need a major policy to change this thing. It will change by itself over time. Because
so do you think this policy is too drastic?
I think they've been saying these things for a long time, how they are going to try to do this policy. It's only drastic because the economy, people are feeling the heat of the economy right now. So anything you try to do now, even if it is the best of policies, people are going to feel it is too drastic. One, Christmas is around the corner. People are thinking of how to get money to do Christmas. Secondly, two, the jackpot syndrome. People are taking off from this country. People already feel there's a lot of problems. The only benefit I see, personally, in the short run, is that if these politicians who want to buy votes during this February, if this policy takes effect in January, then they will need a lot of billions of cash to do that. And then they cannot get that through the banking system without authorization. And then government can trace people who are likely going to withdraw money
and they cannot make transfers.
They cannot make such transfer. If you try to do things, you can't transfer to people who do not have bank accounts, for instance. So cash will be very, very important in trying to rig elections. If the CBN is serious about this policy, then that cash element, where we go and give people 5,000 naira on election day, may disappear in a short time. So far so good. Plus or minus, we expect to see.
Okay, we'll look at other areas of this policy. But before we do that, now that you talked about election, which seems to be the undertone to this policy,
yes.
Do you see it happening that once election is over, they may rescind the policy? The CBN may rescind this policy?
The National Assembly summoned the CBN governor to come and explain the logic of this policy, and secondly, whether he is overreaching his powers. He is acting more of a president than the CBN governor. His policies, the redesign policy, first of all, was criticized. Secondly, something else. He's becoming more of an imperial CBN, because what we normally see in CBN across the world, they tend to be imperial. They are very gentle and conservative. But Emefiele's government is more of an aggressive type. So far, people are shocked that so far, so soon, you are doing too many things quickly. First of all, the way he handled the bureau de change operators and cut them off, to the cutting off of Bitcoin and shutting things down. If you check his policy, he's an aggressive CBN governor. And so we expect that, that is his own style. We expect that people may think it is like that, but he's consistent with his pattern. If you check his pattern in the last 5 years, he's very aggressive with his approach. And so far, we have not seen any sign that he is going to slow down. And when he makes a policy, he tends to have the backing of the government. I have not seen any of his policies he put in place and somehow it was rescinded and it did not work. It means there must be some power supporting him to do that. So people may complain, they may say it is too much or things like that, but I see his policies going through the way it has been going through since, the same way. There must be high-level engagement before he makes those policies. Whether it is too short or too abrupt, I think it's because we are looking at election in the next 3 months and a lot of things are happening in this short period, so it may look like that. But all the same, sometimes maybe it is when it is hot, you need to do something very serious. It's not going to, I think it's also causing a problem for human rights. People believe that they have a right to spend their money when they earn it legitimately. You can't tell me how to spend my money, how to take my money from the bank or something.
How much you can take.
How much I can take. You are encouraging people to keep money at home. Now, if they keep their money at home, like I told you, you're going to create a black market of cash. If people are no longer trusting the bank to keep their money because they believe that they can't get it back when they want it, then they'll keep it at home. That may have implications for crime, robbers who want to go and rob people at home and take the money from them. One of the reasons for the banking's development is to ensure that cash is safe. Now, when people believe that if I put $1 million in a bank and I have to take it back and it's becoming difficult for me to take it back, I'd rather keep it at home. Find a place inside my room, a small vault. So it may encourage people to keep small vaults at home and keep cash at home. And this may also have implications for robberies, especially this period too, when people want to take money. So there are many implications. We must look at the psychological benefits, implications. We must look at the economic implications. We may even look at the implications on prices and things like that.
Do you think that maybe for those who've got cash, the price may be different for those who may be doing online transactions, because the person who's receiving the money may also think of the stress and what it would cost getting the cash? Yes,
they may think like that. If you check, most times when we go to parties, we like to spray thousands of money. You see those things because it's cash. Now that cash...
And it's even sold by those who do the exchange.
So that's why I say black market. If cash becomes difficult to get, and the economy, like I told you, the economy is 91% dependent on cash as we speak, 91%. It therefore means that when you put a ceiling on that cash, it's going to, in the short term, it's going to create a black market. It therefore means that there are people who benefit from selling cash, just selling cash.
But these persons who may go into selling of cash, where would they get the cash from?
They'll get the cash from the black market. It's like people who sell petrol at night. Where do they get it from? They'll get it from the banks. They'll still get it from the official sector.
So that opens the door for racketeering?
A lot of racketeering in between. So there's some criminal activity that will go on for some time until we stabilize the system. Yes. So black market will be, in fact, the cost of getting cash will now become more expensive in the short run. But in the long run, when the system stabilizes, we expect all the cash to be
starting the new year with a policy like this that unsettles small businesses.
Yes.
What do you think about it?
I think the time,
is it ill-timed?
I think the timing should have been put after the elections. Before the elections, I don't know what they intend to gain. They are going to cause some disequilibrium. They should have put after the elections. They also may have considered the fact that the incoming government tenure will run out around that period. So they don't want to make the new government inherit a policy. So they want to start it now. There must have been a reason why they timed it for January. If February is elections, then and March and April we are going to change government. They want it to be part of this government. It's part of Buhari's legacy, so that it doesn't look as if the next government inherited a set of policies which it did not prepare for. So they timed it to coincide with the election season and everything, so that we have about 4 months to get used to it before the next government comes, and it doesn't see it as a burden. And the next government is not inclined to change it because we have done it for some time. But if you push this thing further, and you push it further, the next government may come in and not even support the idea, and even change the CBN governor, and depending on what they want. Because his tenure is 5 years, and if his first tenure is over, except he's put there for a second tenure, a new government can decide to jettison him and put somebody else there. And these are the kind of issues we are talking about.
Let's look at the denomination now, making the highest denomination that can be withdrawn to be 200 naira.
Yes.
And there are other lower denominations where people have been used to 1,000 naira.
Yes.
Any benefits of that?
Yes, the purpose is to cool down prices. That's the objective. When people have 1,000 naira to spend easily, then there's so-called the money illusion. When people have a lot of money to spend, they spend it anyhow. It pushes pressure on prices. But if you have denomination of 200 naira, it tends to it's just a psychological effect. You have 200 naira. It's easier to spend 1,000 naira notes than to spend 500 naira notes. So the idea is just to cool prices this period.
We'll talk more on that after this break. Stay tuned. Thanks for staying tuned to Talking Business. Now, we just saw on the news headline that the CBN governor, Gordon Emefiele, says no going back on the cash withdrawal policy.
I said something like that just now. I say it's an imperial leader. Before he does that, before you sound like that, you must have a lot of backing from the federal government. So, like I told you, it's high level. Most of what he has done so far were shocking to Nigerians. When he stopped Aboki FX trading that time, people said, what's that? That company has been great. He cancelled it. The Bureau de Change operators, they are billionaires. These are very powerful people. He stopped CBN selling to them. And we thought it's going to change. It didn't change. So most of what he has done, he has got away with it. And that's the reason why this one will not get on. Yeah.
Okay, before we look at how to cope with this, still on the 200 naira note being the highest denomination,
yes,
doesn't that pose a great risk? Before this time, in a small bag, someone could have as much as 1 million naira in 1,000 naira denominations, and it will be obvious they're carrying much cash.
Yes.
But having 100,000 in 200 naira notes, or even 100 naira notes, does that not make carrying cash burdensome?
But that's what they want. That's what they want. That's why I say it fits into the overall strategy. The idea is to make cash burdensome, frustrate you with your cash so that you go online. So it's consistent with the overall plan. If cash is becoming burdensome to you, then you get online and do your transactions online, so you don't have to carry cash. Then those businesses who feel it is too hard to carry small 200 naira notes, they get POS machines, and then begin to accept it in form of, that's what they want.
But even the POS are not left out of this. You can also, the limit you can withdraw from POS at a time or in a day is 20,000 naira, and the POS operators get more commission for more cash that you withdraw. Doesn't that pose a threat to the business itself?
Their business model will have to be reorganized because it's a threat to them. This CBN policy is going to affect them negatively because they are going to be charged for any transaction that they do. What I'm looking at the idea of wholesalers and retailers accepting cash. So it will increase the demand for POS machines. Even small business will begin to have it. That's what it means. Because cash is difficult to have now. So what you just buy a POS machine. The demand already is high, but now it will double because people now know that transferring is the easiest way now. So in my business, for instance, I still have a lot of cash, but I may go and apply for a POS machine now and possibly use that to get money from my customers. So it will increase that, for instance. In the long run, the idea is to frustrate the dependence on cash so that all of us will move online and use the banking system.
In the short run, how do we cope? Again, let's begin with the POS operator who's used to giving out cash and getting a charge on it. For instance, if you want to withdraw like 5,000 naira, the charge usually is 100 naira.
Yes.
So if all you can give to one person per time is 20,000 naira, when you were able to give as much as 100,000, 200,000, depending on the environment, and you get more charges on that, so that means more money for you at the end of the day. How then do they cope?
And as I said, in the short run, they are going to suffer. They are going to suffer because it's a new terrain for them. One of their advantages, their uses, is this cash, ability to get cash quickly, and that's exactly what the CBN is going against. You know, so in the interim, what they need to do is to reorganize their business model. I don't see how they are going to get away from it because people will even not want to patronize the POS now because they will prefer to keep their own cash. Like, my plan is that between now and December, I will not go to the bank to deposit any money because I'm used to having online transactions. And I know I have not thought about cash a lot lately, but now because of this policy, I'm thinking about it. I don't want to have to be begging to get my money back. So any money that comes to me now, I'm going to keep it in a place, not POS, not bank, not anything, so that I can quickly run some cash transactions. And I think a lot of people in aggregate will do the same thing. So the POS people need to go and sit down and think, how will it affect their bottom line? Because if people cannot withdraw beyond a certain amount, it therefore means that people will prefer not to have to engage with the POS many times. So if I have 200,000, instead of putting it in my bank and hoping that I'm going to take it through POS, I would prefer to keep the 200,000 at home so I don't have to deal with the POS guy at all. Most of them will be displaced from that chain because the benefit of the POS is now lost.
So that means some of POS operators would not have jobs to do or would not have much business to keep them afloat.
Yes, that's what it means. They are taking their own business part is suffering. That's what it means. The only part that they will benefit from now is the transfer part when I have to transfer money to somebody else through the POS. Which
some persons can even do
with their cell phones.
Their mobile
so
app.
You see, although somebody predicted about 3 years ago that in the next 5 years the POS model will disappear. So I think it's time for them to be reevaluating that business model. It happens. The recharge card selling business disappeared before our eyes. There was a time people used to stay in junctions to sell recharge cards, but people don't do that anymore. So anytime something is centralized from a technological perspective, if your business is in a value chain that is technology oriented, it's always good to reevaluate it every time because a centralized system can always knock off anybody from the system. So the POS people were simply appendages to that system. And if the CBN does not support that cash economy, then where do they stand since the CBN is not interested in people holding cash? So the POS people may need to think of a smart way around it. But you can't circumvent the CBN policy. So I don't understand how they are going to do that too.
But the rural areas, how will this affect them? The POS was seen like the bridge between the banks and those in the rural area. But if they would not have much to do in business with this new policy, how will it affect those in the rural area?
We are going to have a problem of economic dualism in the rural areas. A major advanced part of the society, the urban areas, most people are used to this online. In the villages, this is what will happen. Like I told you, the economy will divide into two for some time. Some people will still stick to the old order, the cash. Why? Cash is the most convenient way of transactions. When there's a war between convenience and expediency, convenience always wins. You get the point? A lot of people are used to, when you are spending cash, it's a habitual thing. It's like you want to win people, you want to stop a man from smoking. Cash has a certain feeling that it's not easy to use policy to stop it. Like I told you, the natural move is that the rural areas, they will find a way to keep more cash at home and avoid the banking system totally. Most of them will avoid because they can actually do a lot of businesses without the banking system. If I live in the rural areas and I sell 2 bags of yam, then I don't need to do POS for that. I give the person cash. The person, instead of going to the bank, will keep it at home. Like I told you, we are going to create an economy where people keep more cash at home if CBN is not careful. But people keep more cash at home. Some will keep more cash at the bank. So what you are looking at is aggregate, those who kept at home and those who kept at the bank. Why we are not scared is because, according to CBN data, 5% of Nigerians who keep money in the banks are richer than the other 95%. So the people that would prefer to use the banking system are the richest people. So the total value of the rural areas we're talking about now in aggregate will not be more than 20% of the entire banking system's cash. So it will not really show, it will not really affect the upper economy, because the rich people, the big businessmen in Nigeria, all of them operate bank accounts. So rural areas will have their own private economy. It's like having a modern hospital and a traditional clinic. You are going to have both, and both of them will hate each other for some time, because the rural people prefer to handle cash. These people, most of them are illiterate. Most of them do not have this, they don't trust technology. So you say transfer. How do you tell that to a 60-year-old woman in the village? So when you say that, if you make it difficult for her to get money, she'll keep all the money inside one box. That's why I said robbery will increase, because people will not begin to keep cash at home. When people keep cash at home, it will encourage people to go home and steal it. So how does the CBN intend to handle these issues? The poor people will eventually suffer in the short run until we get adjusted to it.
Wow, it seems like it's just something people need to start planning on how to get used to,
yes,
and how to walk their way around it.
And it's easy for some people, but not easy for others.
Okay, so for the first few months that we'll be going through this, what do you think will happen to inflation rates?
This is Christmas. Inflation rates will quite naturally be what it is this period. We can't,
in January, when we begin the cash withdrawal policy.
When the policy starts, inflation will go down, because people will not be inclined to spend cash that time. They'll be inclined to keep it, because the best time to spend the cash is now. By that time, people will not be inclined to spend. What they'll be more inclined to do is to keep and do online transfers. But for now, people are buying things. In a buying period, people need cash, especially in an economy that depends on cash. So this period, you are going to see most people rebelling against the CBN policy. Like I told you, trying to get money to spend this period. But when the pressure to spend this period has dropped down, people begin to investigate what the CBN is trying to do and begin to keep money. So we expect that January, February, March, the prices will slow down when people begin to get normalized into the system.
Okay, if what this policy would do for us is to bring down inflation, bring down prices of goods and services a bit, then perhaps it's something that Nigerians should embrace.
So, although the big factor in whether prices will go down depends on the productivity that happens. I mean, because most of the prices that go up are food products. So, like I told you, if January comes and after the Christmas, Yuletide and everything, the supply of goods and services increase to match demand, because now demand will naturally be more than supply. But after the holidays, we expect demand to cool down and supply to come up a little. So that is the reason why I'm saying the price may not go too high as at that point. But all the same, like the bottom line is we can't measure the total effect in 3 months. 3 months or 2 months is too short to measure the total effect of the policy. We need to spread it to like 9 months to see the adjustment period, how people are able to adjust away from the December fever to January to March. So we are going to be seeing the total effect around the second quarter of next year. So for now, it will be too early to speculate.
Okay, on a final note, are there other policies that the CBN may need to tweak to cushion the effect of this current policy that is just spread out?
The best thing they would have done, I don't even understand why they are using ceilings and using, it's too draconian. They would have simply done something, encourage people to use online. So if you use online, you get discounts. Like something like they did in PESA did in another country. If you want people to use a system, you use the carrot approach. Then you penalize people for withdrawing cash, and then you reward people for and create some incentive. You don't need to put a hard line stance. If you do a transaction worth 50,000 and above online, you get a small rebate from it. The central bank can do that, and so you get a 500 naira or 1,000 naira rebate.
Like they did with the dollar policy.
Yes, simple. You do the same thing. What is wrong if Nigerians get something for trying to use the online system? It's even a good thing. You tell them if you do a transaction, instead of if you do it offline with cash, you get 0 naira. If you do it through the bank, you get, for every 50,000 you do, you get 1,000 naira back. People will prefer that system. Then for those people that would like to withdraw cash a lot, if you withdraw up to 1 million naira, you get charged 5%. So just the carrot and stick approach, use it both ways without having one hook line. And then if you are interested in those, if you want to stop those who are kidnapping the underground economy, simply put a cap. If you want to withdraw as much as 5 million, the CBN will need to be alerted. You need to fill a long form. So put a cap. This small money that they are dealing with will only punish people in the short run. But if you wanted to deal with those people, I mean, you are talking about the underground people, the kidnappers, the drug dealers, those people that depend on cash, a cap would have done that. You simply say any transaction worth 5 million above will be capped and will be penalized at so percent.
So that way the small businesses are spared,
spared,
and then those who
you are targeting, we have to deal with it. It's as simple as that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you just brought my mind now to the charges that the CBN has placed for transactions that will be above the limit it has placed.
Yes.
Between 5 to 10%.
Yes.
I think that's too high. Does that seem exploitative?
But of course, if you had an option to do the transfer, it's not a transfer. They say cash transactions.
Yes.
So
if you have need, because you mentioned earlier that people still trust cash. People prefer cash. If you have need to make huge purchase that demands you to present lots of cash,
yes,
and you need that genuinely, but you're being charged as much as 10% of your money,
yes,
5% of your money.
But in the legitimate economy, if your business is legitimate and you want to make a transfer of 5 to 10 million, you should make a transfer, or you should use a check. Why would you even prefer cash? The people that prefer cash are usually in the underground economy. So I think that policy is not targeting the real corporate, it's targeting people who prefer the underground economy. If Zenith Bank wants to do a transaction with Julius Berger now, they will transfer the money. Why would they need to be withdrawing cash and be paying that 5%?
So
it was deliberate.
Businesses may not even request.
They may not request it. Why will I want to do a transaction with 10 million naira cash? Doesn't make sense. I transfer it, or I just issue a check.
Does that not burden online transactions and result in chances of you having your transaction not go through? Everybody, remember when the telecom communication started and lots of persons were making calls. Sometimes there are some periods when you just have network very busy.
Yes.
Your calls can't get connected. If you have so many persons making online transactions, is there a chance that sometimes these transfers may not be possible and so business will be halted?
Yes, yes, very strong chance. Like I told you, the bandwidth technology needs to be enhanced. There needs to be a serious policing of the system. There needs to be more infrastructure to support it, to make this thing seamless. If I need to transfer 500,000 to somebody and the thing hangs on the road, on the way, and I can't do anything about it, then it will hurt business. These are the questions you should be throwing to the CBN. How do they intend to tackle such problems? And that is why, like I said, many other businesses will come in, other payment systems will come in to give us alternatives. So if you hear that if you transfer through one bank, something may be wrong with it, you may just reverse the transaction and transfer through another payment system.
So maybe we'll see the birth of other
We are going to see a lot of them. Yes, to make things easier, Don't do that. Do it through us, things like that.
Okay, now you mentioned that we should be asking the CBN. Last week we had on the show non-executive member of the CBN where he assured that this UTIDE will not have much restrictions on cash, and we're seeing that we'll have that this UTIDE.
Yes.
But we never saw that of the cash withdrawal policy coming up in January. So,
yes,
of course, again, we'll have a part 2 of this discussion where we would ask the CBN or its officers some of these questions so that they can talk to us how they intend to make this policy work without putting businesses in so much stress.
Yes, at risk, yeah.
Thank you very much, Destiny Ogu, for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
And compliments of the season. Wish you a Merry Christmas.
You too. I'm very excited to be here.
Thank you. That's been the show. Be wise how you use your cash, and if you haven't been doing online transactions, maybe you should begin to get tutorials now so you get used to it, because you will need that knowledge and skill in the coming year.
Yeah.
We do hope that it will be a year of ease of doing business at a very, very, very high level, and be security conscious this season. I'll see you next week.